This technique is designed to open DNA strands 1, 2, and 3 to facilitate opening of the fourth and fifth strands. It does so by activating the tiny Merkabah housed in the first cell located at the tip of the tailbone. Dan, you just woke yours up a little while ago. It activates the indigo imprint and allows body to bring through the frequencies of the Ki Rasha, the primal light, and the Kundalini, the primal sound, in through the first 3 chakras, setting the grounding base for the Kundalini. It's essential that you have completed the MCEO technique before beginning this exercise, which we're assuming that we all have. So let's just take a moment now to bring up our MCEO, reinforce it, and get it nice and strong. Okay, so I invite you now just to close your eyes and just to relax. Giving yourself permission to relax and taking a nice few deep clearing breaths. As we relax, just continue to breathe and gradually bring your attention to the 2 large Merkabah fields which surround you. The one above your head, electrical, spinning clockwise, that's if you looked up at its point, and the one below your feet, magnetic, spinning counterclockwise. If you look down toward the point, you can see it spinning clockwise beneath your feet. Spend a minute or so seeing, feeling, or sensing each of these pyramids of energy spinning around you. Get a feeling for their rate of spin, whatever rate of spin that feels right for you. And as you do, allow yourself to notice the energy from their combined effect, feeding energy into your crown chakra. Without losing the sense of your spin rate, try to feel or sense the energy flowing down your central vertical current, all the way down into your tailbone, feeding energy into the tiny Merkabah located there. Spend a moment just feeling that energy there. Once you have a sense of these spinning Merkabah generating the energy flow down through the crown and central vertical current, feeding the little Merkabah, switch your attention to the big magnetic Merkabah spinning counterclockwise below. This corresponds to the downward pointing part of the tiny Merkabah in the first cell. Now you may feel a spiral of energy coming up from the earth core through the 12th chakra below the feet, spinning counterclockwise, all the way up and into the base chakra, and then into the tailbone, beginning to feed energy from the earth grid into the bottom half of the tiny Merkabah, feeding it. Once you have the rhythm of this counterclockwise flow set comfortably, combine your sense of the electrical Merkabah spinning clockwise above you with that of the magnetic spiral flow coming from below. Work to hold your awareness of both elements of energy spin coming to feed energy to the little Merkabah in the first of the 8 cells in your tailbone. While holding the speed and the flow of the 2 large Merkabah in your consciousness, include the rhythm of your breath in your attention span. And as you do, imagine, with every exhale breath, you are breathing energy into the little Merkabah, right down the central vertical current, into the first cell and into the little Merkabah. As you continue to do this, the little Merkaba begins to spin, mirroring the spin of the both large external Merkaba fields around you. Don't need to worry about the spin rates or the ratios. The Merkabas know what they're doing. What they need is energy, and you provide that with your active breathing. So with every exhale, become more conscious of your feeding energy into the little Merkaba. The electrical element will respond and speed up. As it does, it will control its own magnetic spin rate. Continue to breathe with it until the upper electrical part of the tiny Merkaba seems to burst into a sphere of light. Continuing to breathe, you'll build this effect, and the sphere bursts forth. It will gradually look a little like the planet Saturn, sending rings, pulses of energy out around itself. These in turn becomes as rays of energy emanating out from the tiny Merkaba. This begins the activation of both parts of the D1 Merkaba that correspond to the seals of the D12 level. Once this happens, try to feel the sense of heat that has generated in the tailbone, like a warm, tingly feeling. Breathing the tingly feeling upward with an inhale breath, all the way up to the pineal gland at the center of the brain. With an exhale, push it out and feel the frequency pushing out through the pineal seals. Become aware that the tiny Merkaba has moved up to the pineal gland and is spinning there. Try and feel the sensation of the six-pointed, three-dimensional Merkaba spinning at the center of the brain. This will produce a frequency release that will assist the release of the cranial sacral seals that will control your ability to bring in your higher consciousness into the DNA template. This actually changes brainwave patterns by introducing alpha and theta frequencies to the usual beta patterns, helping the body, the mind, and the spirit to work together to develop new neurological networks that will allow multi-vector perception to become an easier thing to accomplish while focused on the physical body. Now visualize the image of the six-pointed 3D Merkaba as a 12-pointed 3D Merkaba. Picture this as a ball with 12 skinny spikes sticking out. This is actually a mathematical coding which accelerates activation of the DNA template, but one which follows natural rhythms. See if you can feel the difference in the energy signature of the 12 versus the six-pointed star. Now, on an inhale, and on an exhale, push the 12-pointed star all the way down to the central column, through the 12th chakra, into the 13th chakra at Earth's core, and into the planetary shields. You may notice sound tones much different than the two-dimensional Hierophant when the 12-pointed star strikes the Earth core, due to the effects of energy released from the usual dormant parts of the planetary grids. Once you have gotten the 12-pointed star into the planetary shields, use the inhale breath to bring it up to the base chakra. Imagine where the base chakra stops, there's a little seal, a little tiny point where the base chakra points downward. Bring the 12-pointed star up to that point, locking it into your molecular structure with the first DNA strand template. Continuing to breathe and beginning to draw energy up from the Earth's core through the breath, you will notice that the column of energy, when you first breathe up, is much stronger than that with the Hierophant. And then exhale that energy into the base chakra. Repeat and notice a horizontal disk of energy, like the rings of Saturn, emerges from the point where the base chakra spark, the crystal seal, is located within the body. Inhaling again from the planetary shields, and pull the 12-pointed star up to the main vertical current to the second chakra, to the center of the bow tie-shaped cone, and exhale the rings of Saturn again from that point. Bring the 12-pointed star up a third and final time to the center of the solar plexus chakra. Inhale from the planetary shields and exhale to create the rings of Saturn effect. At this point, your biofield is open to greater energy and consciousness, and this is space you need to reach if you want to do well with mental bilocation. If you're going to remember what you do with your fourth dimensional consciousness and body, you need to have your third, second, and first dimensional selves open to receive these frequencies. This technique will help you. Okay. Our energy work's now completed, so just bring yourself gently back, slowly and carefully.
This information is taking us to a point now where we're integrating all the spiritual stuff and structure stuff that we learned right into how it's working in our bodies. And we're being given the codes now, the Vecca codes, that will allow us to begin really making changes. The changes that if we work with these techniques over a period of time to build critical mass in the new energies that we're generating, they will begin to make changes in our noticeable physical being. They will first of all create the Merkabah field, but a very specialized Merkabah field. We're going to talk about that tonight because I want you to understand the difference between what a regular Merkabah field is that other people are teaching Merkabah and the Akasha Merkabah that we're teaching, because it's a very specialized form of Merkabah, and usually it's only reserved, in fact, it's been literally, I think, about 200,000 years since general populations were taught this type of Merkabah, because the Akasha Merkabah not only can get you through stargates to Tara, like the regular Merkabah can, it can sustain your fields where you could actually live in a place in the transharmonic time cycle, which is the inner earth time cycle. It allows you to hold the frequency. It's the equivalent of our D12 Mahanta Merkabah. So we're jumping from just learning how to get our Nethra Merkabah on the bottom going to hopefully being able to create holophase Merkabah, which we'll talk about later. That holophase Merkabah in the natural, regular Merkabah structure is the second phase of Merkabah. And it would take you 2 more phases to get up to developing a Mahanta Merkabah, a D12 Merkabah. Holophase Merkabah is only a 6-dimensional Merkabah. You can get to Tara with that. You can get to density 2 with that, but that's all. You can't sustain your body in inner earth for any long period of time in that type of Merkabah. You would need to be in one of the polarized systems because it can't hold the fully integrated frequencies that inner timeline, that inner earth timeline runs on. This particular Merkabah, and it looks like this when it's formed around the body, but it spins. They both spin. This little contraption here, this is so cool because we had the drawing on, scratched on a piece of paper, and there's very specific proportions to it and that kind of thing. Az created this from the drawing. He actually brought it into physical form. We're going to be taught as we go along how to use this form in making things like this, because there's various purposes for this. One of them is communication. They're actually devices that can assist in communication with the Eoni races of inner earth because they're coded to the inner earth frequencies. This structure, however, is the structure. It's an outside version. What you're looking at is an outside version of what an Akasha Merkabah looks like around your body and also on each dimensional level of your body. You would have little tiny Merkabah like that that's actually flowing the life force currents through your body and through your cellular structure. You would have little Merkabahs like that in the neutron windows. They would be actually the machines, the biological machines that generate, that create the current that moves those primal force currents through. In building this Merkaba in our fields, we're being given an opportunity that is very, very rarely given. Not only will we be able to possibly, as long as things go well on the planet, where we still have the option of stargates opening, we will have the opportunity to be able to go into the halls of Mente stargates. We will have the opportunity to go through a passage that's called the Amareya passage. The Amareya passage, if you think of a Cathara grid with the 12 points on it, that's the one that comes down the right side, where it's the 12, 9, 6, 3 passage. This one jumps harmonics, which means it's a safe passage to wherever you want to go. Only the true ascended masters and the true Christic beings use this passage because it can't be used by any of the fallen angelics. They can't hold the frequency of it because it requires that type of Merkaba to move through it. So we are actually, this is the beginning of an invitation that I'm very surprised that it's being offered. Nobody told me that it was, and through the process of this workshop, it's become apparent that we are being offered. This won't be like an invitation to pop through tomorrow, but we're being trained here, offered the opportunity to train for something that is much bigger than what I thought it was ever going to be. I figured I would be very happy if I could get people to get through into Inner Earth, into the Mente stargates, just to be able to have those experiences. But they're actually training us to go into the Amareya passage, which is it's like a free ticket to the universe. The Amareya passage opens into every stargate system, and only people who are on the master's course of training ever get trained in that type of Merkaba use, in that kind of passage. So I don't know why yet that they're bringing these teachings to us. All I know is that they are, and these used to be the most highly guarded secret teachings because there are certain things about them that you can't run a Merkaba like this on anything less than a D12 current. So it can't be used by fallen angelic races. When you work with Merkaba structure like this, they can take the technology, but they can't make it work because they can't activate the frequencies that it requires to run. But when we're working with the Mana, the Mane, and the Ire, those frequencies on the lower levels of their manifestation can be used and twisted, and that's what a lot of the false ascension teachings are doing. They're teaching you how to ascend right into Phantom Matrix and telling you that's going to be a good thing. So we are on a very special path here, and I know that path leads to the potential of walking through, literally being able to transmute your body and bring it back on the other side into Inner Earth, where we actually get to visit that place. That place is a physical place when your body is calibrated to a certain frequency, just like this place is physical. Physicality is really an illusion, no matter where you are, but you will see as solid what's one dimension below your station of consciousness. This particular Merkaba structure will not only allow us to go into Inner Earth, but Inner Tara, Inner Gaia, and all the way up if we wanted to. There's a Merkaba that can get us out. So the people who have contracts in this life, and eventually you come to understand your own contract. You come to feel that, I feel a part of myself that knew what I came here for, and you'll get information progressively. Your own avatar levels will release information to you. Some of you came to get out completely. Others came to take a tour and see what it's like on Tara or maybe Gaia. But the people who have come to really they want to ascend this time. They want to do the Ascended Masters things and maybe come back once they have their codes where they can have more frequency available and things like that. But this is the Merkaba that you get out with if you want to go all the way out. So we're on a journey here, and we're on a journey together, and it centers around Merkaba mechanics. Merkaba is a part of our everyday life. It's a part of the way reality forms itself here. We have everything in manifestation has a Merkaba field. Not everything has a Merkaba vehicle, however. A Merkaba vehicle is different from a Merkaba field in that Merkaba fields are the cones of spiraling energy that surround any object in manifestation, that create inside of them that form constant egg space where the manifestation takes place. But not all Merkaba fields are capable of merging together and creating a transharmonic set of frequencies that allows what's inside that bubble inside of them to actually go up into another harmonic. like there's a lot of things here on the planet, objects and things like that. They still have their Merkaba fields, but they won't be vehicles. They won't become vehicles because their templates that those Merkaba fields are built on don't have enough of the coding to go up higher in the dimensional scale. That's why things tend to, in stellar activation cycles, when you have a 3-day particle conversion period, which happens at a certain point in stellar activation cycles, you will find that certain things just disappear because they can't hold the frequency. They didn't ascend, they just demanifested because they couldn't handle the frequency coming in. This Merkaba, that it's funny, I'm looking at it and it keeps catching my attention because the structure of this is a little tiny version of what some very special places look like. There are structures in inner Earth that are called the crystal pylon temples. The crystal pylon temples of inner Earth are the places where the halls of Amente stargates are located. They are literally the temple structures in which they're like large crystal generator plants where the halls of Amente stargates open and close within. And the inner Earth gates regulate the Templar here. Now, there's been so many problems with the Templar or the planetary grid system here for so many thousands of years. This is why the inner Earth gates had to be closed, because if that problem came into there, the whole place would go down. But the structure of that Merkaba, like looking at it in a tangible outside yourself form, this is the structure of the inner Earth crystal pylon temples, except they're huge and they're made out of selenite crystal and like the size of buildings. You think of the Empire State Building, that would be like a small one compared to some of the crystalline structures. And they are shaped and carved into that form to hold frequency in a very specific way. Now, we're not going to be turning ourselves into a solid Merkaba. We're going to be building progressively this Merkaba field within our fields. To do that, we have to clear the mutations that are in the DNA templates, because this requires a full 12 subharmonic activation of each dimensional level. That means beings like with a base 8 gene code or a reverse base 8 gene code, like a lot of the Anunnaki races and the Draconian races, they could not even form that kind of Merkaba, because in their DNA templates, they only have 8 sub-frequency bands that can run instead of the natural set of 12 that the Universal Divine Blueprint is built on. So in the process of learning to build this in our fields to where we can begin to get the knowledge and the privilege that goes with being able to activate that, we'll progressively, layer by layer, clear the parts of ourselves that are holding the distortions that would block the formation of this structure. Now, regular Merkaba, the regular fields that most people are aware of if they've seen any Merkaba teachings out here, are basically structured something like this. Now, this has a lot of information on it. That's why you look at it and go, what is that? We're working on getting more clear ones where you have several layers like that aren't shown together so you can see the structures. It's basically a star tetrahedron shaped thing. Looks like a Star of David on a flat plane, but it's actually, it's a star tetrahedron, which means there would be 3 planes to the spiral coming up, and there would be 3 planes to the spiral coming down. This diagram is important because it shows you a bit about Merkaba's relationship to other things. Now, in our anatomy, we have talked about the shields. Yesterday we talked about, when we were going through the anatomy, we have the scalar grid templates that, the universe has them, the planet has them, and so do our bodies. We have our own scalar shields. The shields of our bodies are directly connected to Merkaba. The shields are the control mechanisms for Merkaba. And Merkaba is you can call it a natural biological machine that circulates the primal currents and the primal consciousness through our fields. You have these rings that are shown here in the diagram. Let me find my pointer. I actually have it. Somebody gave me a pointer, and I keep forgetting I have it. Oh, 1 2 seconds. I have it here somewhere. There it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. These things. These in this drawing are showing you the shields. There were other charts that we saw yesterday where you saw like 4 little circles like this lined up next to a body with a Cathara grid in it. These are the shields. Looking at them as how they would be around the body with the Merkaba. You'd have your Maharic shield down here. This is the thing when we're doing Maharic the shield activation to bring up the Maharic seal, we're activating this. That is literally our universal shield, the part of our anatomy that plugs right into the universal divine blueprint template. You have the next one up here. This is your telluric shield. That's the one that controls what's called the Nada Huva body, or the dimension 1, 2, and 3, density 1 aspect of self. Now, the Dance for Life course, the information and the techniques we've been given here are specifically for integrating and clearing and activating the radio body in density 1. So what we're going to be doing, when we use these techniques, even if we're not thinking about our Merkaba while we're doing tones, this is what we're bringing into activation, this piece here, because we're activating our telluric shield. Now, when we go into the other, for people who want to stay with this program and go into the next level, which will be the Dance for Love, that will begin this process of fully activating this shield. And then the next one, the Dance for Freedom, will be fully activating this shield. And then the final one, the Dance for Joy, will be finally activating this whole shield. Because right now, when we activate our Maharic shield, if you look at the shields, they're kind of like bullseyes. They have these, if you could look at them and visualize them as being crystalline structures made out of pretty little crystal points that are arranged in very specific, intricate geometrical designs. That's the mathematical template that tells the consciousness and the primal life force currents that our body is made out of, tells it what way to bend light and what way to move sound in order to create the three-dimensional hologram. What we're doing when we're activating the Maharic shield right now is we're actually activating this little part of it around here, not the core at the center, just this little band of it right around in here. And there's many other bands that would take it out. It goes out hundreds and hundreds of feet once you get it fully activated, and you can learn to expand it. You can actually expand the Maharic shield below your feet to literally wrap around the planet. So this is, we're not activating to that level yet, because to do that, to activate all of this, requires progressive activation of each of these, because each of these are mathematical templates, and if you squished them all down, they would be in here. All right? So this shield holds all of the information, mathematical information, of the other shields as well. So to get this activated, we need to progressively activate these as well. That's why we're doing these 4 parts of this course, where we will, one at a time, we will activate each phase. And we're not just activating. You can activate a Merkaba, but if your DNA still is holding mutations, if you still are not able to open the neutron windows in your cells, if you are still holding reversed matrix coding in your template, in your DNA template, and if your radio body does not have all the natural currents flowing through it, if any of your ki or your chi or your mana or any of that is blocked, you're going to create a mess when this activates. What you're going to create is, this would look like a thing with holes all the way through it. If this was like a solid cone of energy that's spinning, you would have holes and rips all over it. Those frequencies that couldn't come in that were supposed to be there, what that would do is create a very unstable Merkabah field that would progressively start to pull energy out of your body rather than feed it into it. It would create illness and sickness. This is why some people have very bad Kundalini activations when they take certain courses that don't use Maharic seal. The Maharic seal begins the process of putting the divine blueprint back, so you get all the frequencies, at least temporarily, into your body that you need. When you're doing this type of work without Maharic seal, you are literally activating a broken Merkaba. And when you do that, you can get parts of it to activate, but some will spin in reverse, some will spin lopsided, and you can really, really harm your body that way and your consciousness. Now, what's interesting is this diagram can help us understand where the shadow lives as well. We talked about the shadow part of the self that has to do with the DNA template reversals that are all attached to this eye of the jackal implant that's controlling the planetary Merkabah fields. What this creates in our DNA is a whole bunch of DNA strands that are shut off, and the ones that are active are right now running on reverse. As we're activating DNA strands now, what the fallen angelics were hoping would happen was we would continue activating up to the 8th subharmonic in each of the first 4 strands and do it on reverse, which means we would be living in phantom matrix by the end of this stellar activation cycle under the great overlords, some of them named like Jehovah, some of them named Allah, all the different ones that have personified themselves down here and represented themselves as externalized God figures that we're supposed to worship. None of those were truth. They took true teachings, and they took true spiritual teachings, manipulated them for their own purposes in order to trick us into this final fall. What they have orchestrated from the beginning was an attempt to make the fallen angelic races become fallen angelic races, because we were in their way of taking over this time matrix. The human race was created as a guardian race to protect this time matrix from falling into the black hole system. So from the moment of our creation, it set us into a situation where we were here to run the divine intention, the original intention for this time matrix on behalf of the Krystos and on behalf of Source. And that meant that the others who were not doing that, the others who wanted to not do that and who were more interested in abusing the privilege of having creation here, immediately took a very strong disliking to our races. This is a very long battle that we've been involved in. What's happened in this battle is, you can look at what happened to our Merkabah right now as like having battle scars. We have a lot of rips and tears and things where things were poked in where they didn't belong. And we get very tired. When our Merkabah isn't running the right way, it's cutting off our life force currents. When we have those blockages in the cells, our cells aren't getting enough life force energy, what they're supposed to have. That's why our bodies fall apart. In stellar activation cycles, that whole process of bodies falling apart happens more quickly. Everything is accelerated. New frequencies are coming in. If your body and your DNA template can't hold those new frequencies, it makes more holes in your template. Because when the frequencies come in, they act like a sledgehammer on the little crystal templates that are your DNA strands. If you have the receivers open, that frequency from the higher fields will simply come in and flow through, and you will begin to expand. You will grow with the planet. You will go, open with the stellar activation cycle. But if the receivers in your DNA template are damaged, those little scalar waves can't wake up to hold the new frequency. The frequency comes in like a sledgehammer and builds up, hits critical mass, and begins to crush more of the DNA template. Literally, as if you took a hammer to crystal and shattered it. When that happens, you get more holes in your biology, more holes in your atomic structure, more holes in your consciousness. And progressively, it creates a progressive de-evolution of your consciousness. This is how we get trapped in time. This is how we end up stuck in physicality. And eventually, the physicality dies. It can't sustain under those conditions. But the consciousness is still there. But the consciousness can't get itself out of the density that it's stuck in, so it progressively fragments more and more unless somebody tries to help it. Now, our human race is in a position where there's a lot of beings from other places helping, because if we didn't have help right now, all of us would become a phantom race living in the phantom matrix. And because we were the appointed guardians in this time matrix, you have the basically cosmic police going down for the count, and you're going to have the lunatics running the asylum completely. And that's what's going to that's what the fallen angelics would like to see happen. It's not in their best interest either, but they don't understand that because they forgot the lessons of oneness. They don't realize that they can't, all they're going to do is destroy themselves as they continue on the path that they have been on. They don't want to know and they don't want to hear it, and that's unfortunate. But it still comes back to, we're in the middle of a wonderful drama in certain ways. It can be scary in other ways, but it's wonderful because we've waited for literally 250 billion years for this point in time, when the races here could finally say, game over, time for a nice, relaxing Krystos space to live in, time to heal from this very hard learning and healing experiment that we've been through.